Hello, I'm Woods Houghton with the Eddy County Extension Office, and it's the end of the year, at the end of 2011, and it's been a tough year. I just want to talk a little bit about agriculture and where we've been this year. It actually started last year having a hard time with some of our farmers because of the cutworm situation we had, and then they replanted, and then we had problems with that being frozen out in February, just like a lot of homeowners lost some grass and trees and shrubs, but these guys lost plants that they depend on for a living. And then the drought has been really hard on everybody this year in agriculture, whether you're a farmer or a rancher or North Eddy County or South Eddy County, because of the water situation. Many alfalfa producers weren't able to water for the full year, so they had a reduced yield because they had a reduced number of cuttings. And some of those, when you invest in an alfalfa plant to plant alfalfa, you plan on keeping that stand for 5, 6, 7 years, and you expect a return on investment over that 7-year period. And when you can't water it all the way through the season, and you only get 4 cuttings or 5, and the stand will be reduced in the number of plants, because some of those plants are going to die because of the drought, because they didn't get any rain or they didn't get any water, and so that stand longevity is reduced as well. So you've reduced the return on investment on that situation. So that's been a real difficult situation for our agriculture producers. Cotton, I looked at a lot of cotton plants were dropping bolls and dropping cotton because they didn't have irrigation for the late season, and we went over 372 days without any rainfall. So it was pretty tough on the cotton guys as well. Those people with supplemental well, the supplemental well quality is not as good as the water quality that comes out of the rivers, so they may have been able to get by this year pretty good, but next year they may see a reduction in yield because of the amount of salts that they've had to put on their fields. And then we go into to the ranching industry and start dealing with what's been happening with our ranchers, and way back in May, ranchers could realize that we were headed in for a drought. They had plenty of feed from last year, but that old grass is not really high nutritious, so they were supplemental feeding with either cake or liquid feed or tubs, which have molasses and basically dehydrated liquid feed in it, and reducing the number of animals, culling animals that were old, culling animals that were lame, culling animals that were not desirable in their shape or form or conformation, and then weaning early, weaning calves younger than they normally would, so that they could get them off those cows, so that the cows could bounce back from being pregnant and nursing, and be able to rebreed for the next year. You have to have a body condition score of 5 to rebreed, and so it's been a difficult year for farmers, and been a difficult year for ranchers. And me personally, working with both farmers and ranchers, I've never, usually we have a crisis. It's a crisis that's shared by everybody, and it's the same crisis, and we're just trying to work out the problems. But this year we were dealing with 4, 5, 6 individual producers, which had tremendously different crises taking place. Everything from gas pipelines breaking underneath their fields and leaking and killing alfalfa, to ranchers that had cattle hit by trucks and could not recoup the losses because they didn't know which truck hit them. We lost close to $1 million worth of cattle based on a survey we did with all of our ranchers, and them telling us size and shape and age of cattle that were killed by trucks. And it's been a tough year that way too. And as the oil industry has been really good for our economic development. They've also helped us with in ranches by giving us some good roads and that type of thing. But we do wish they would slow down and not hit the cattle, on some of those trucks. So hopefully, the prediction for 2012 is that we're going to continue into a La Nina year, but that because it's a weak La Nina, that the storm centers will fall a little bit further south, so we have a higher chance of getting rainfall and snowfall this winter. And maybe we won't get so much wind, but because it's an election year, I expect the wind to be pretty gusty, as politicians predict. And but hopefully we will be looking at some better conditions as 2012 comes about. So with that, this is Woods Houghton signing off, and have a good day. Woods here, may I help you?
Mm-hmm.